Hi everyone, it's Lindsay and I'm back today with another quick and easy Father's Day card, but I'm going to be using an Inspired by Stamping freebie. So this comes in their newsletter. So to get their newsletter, you first want to go to inspiredbystamping.com. Then right in that teal bar, you're going to see newsletter. Go ahead and click on that. And then it will bring up this little pane and click join the list. That will bring up a new window. You just need to put in your email. You can put in your last name if you want to, and then click that submit button, and a newsletter will be delivered to your inbox. Now, in this particular newsletter, you have two freebies, and one of them is this lighthouse image. So once you go ahead and download that and you open up the zip file, then you just want to go ahead and print these. That's all you have to do. But I'm going to show you how I spice mine up a little bit. Now to print these, you can print them in Paint. All you need to do with that is open it up in Paint, and then right whenever you go to page setup, go ahead and click adjust to, that little check mark right there, and then it will go ahead and scale it down to its actual size. Click OK, and then you can go ahead and print. I like to print mine in Photoshop Elements, but I know not everybody has that. I like to do it because I can add my crop marks to it, which you'll see in my print-offs. So what I did with this particular card front is I went ahead and printed it off twice onto regular plain white cardstock, and you can see that I do have my crop marks there on my card front. Now I print with crop marks because I find it easier to go ahead and cut them and make sure everything's nice and centered and straight whenever I go to cut it, and I'll show you how I cut them now. So I'm just using my paper trimmer. I'm not going to use the top bar or the bottom bar to make sure it's lined up. I'm going to use my little wire guide in there. I will line up two of the crop marks. So I'm going to go ahead and line these up and make sure they are lined up with my wire guide. Then I'll go ahead and cut right between them. I'm not going to cut the entire piece of paper here. If I cut that off, I lose my crop marks. So I need to go ahead and make sure everything still stays connected. Then I'll go ahead and flip it 90 degrees and go ahead and give it another cut between those two crop marks. Then again, another 90 degrees. Go ahead and make sure everything's lined up in there. And then I will place down my wire guide, line up my two crop marks on this side, and then cut in between the two. Again, making sure I keep that paper right on the edges there. I don't want to cut that off yet. And this is my final cut right here. Line up my last two crop marks and then go ahead and cut them, and then I will have one card front ready to go. I'll do the same exact thing on my next card front too. Actually, you know what? I just went ahead and trimmed this one down very quickly because I'm just going to die cut it. So I'm using a circle die cut that fits that Happy Father's Day sentiment. And I'll go ahead and use a piece of painter's tape just to hold that circle die cut right in place. And this is my second card front here. This is not the first one that I just cut out with all the crop marks. That'll be my main one that I color on. This is my second one, and I just want that sentiment from it. Now, if you wanted to use this card front, but you didn't want to use it as a Father's Day card, you could use this same technique. Just cut out a different sentiment and then paste that over the top of it, and you've got a completely different card front for a completely different occasion. I'm going to go ahead and save this though for a Father's Day card. I did cut out a black mat with a little larger circle die as well, and that's going to complete the sentiment. Now to finish this card, I'm going to be using my alcohol markers to color in this image. So I'm starting off with some brick reds to color in the lighthouse, and then I'm using some ivories to color in between the black spaces of the lighthouse. Now I used my laser printer, so I do need to be pretty careful whenever I'm coming in with these lighter colors, just so I don't pull some of that toner away from that. It doesn't affect your alcohol markers, don't affect the toner that much, but in areas like those lighthouse stripes where you have quite a bit of saturation of the toner, it can pull some of that away. So you just need to be a little bit more careful working with it. Now I used some greens for the little grassy areas in the sand, and then I'm using some browns just to color quickly in this little sand underneath the lighthouse. Now I am going to add some texture with my alcohol markers too, with some dots. That's coming up in just a minute, but I want to go ahead and get some shading down first. So underneath all of my little grassy areas and along the hills, I'm adding an even darker brown. Then I'm coming back in and just really blending out these colors, making sure I keep a few shadows in there and a few lighter spaces as well. I'm trying not to go over those green areas because I don't want that green to end up bleeding into the browns, since I am saturating this paper pretty liberally here. So now I'm coming in with my darker colors, and this is where I'm going to add in that texture with some dots. Now, if you have ever looked at sand, you know you have all different colors in it. I'm even going to throw in some black later on, but I could even throw in reds if I wanted to. I'm using some browns, some caramel colors almost, some ivories, and if you come in with a lighter color here, what that's actually going to do is push away that darker color, and it gives you some lighter spots too. So throw in some of those lighter colors here too. I'm continuing just putting little dots down, and I'm making these very random, different sizes, nothing pattern. I don't want a pattern to come out of this at all. I want it to be very random looking. Now you will notice though that when I get closer to those darker shaded areas, I do put more of the darker dots up there, and then down towards the bottom I use them a little bit more sparingly, and that's just to keep the shading a little bit more focused. I did come back in with some more green and darken up those grassy areas just to make sure that they stood out away from the sand. Now for the little bit of water, I'm using two different colors of blues, a lighter and a darker. For some added shading, I'll come back in and go over that darker area with the lighter to blend it out. Now for the sky, I am just using a very light blue just along those little areas in the sky where it has the little lines for clouds. That's all I'm going to be doing for the sky. Other than that, I'm going to leave it completely white. Now I went ahead and added a little bit of yellow on the top of the lighthouse. I wish I would have left it just as is and not done what I'm doing right now, which is adding little bits around the actual lighthouse to make it look like it's shining. I wish I would have just left it yellow right in that little area on top. But it still works for me. I still went with it. And what I ended up doing with this is I matted it on some black as well, so it will match the sentiment. And then I'll just place that right on top of that black mat using double-sided adhesive to make sure it's nice and secure. And then I will go ahead and put this onto an A2 top folding white card base. I'm not adding any dimension at this point. I'll go ahead and add it on the sentiment later on. And I try not to add too much dimension to my cards. One, maybe two layers. 2 layers if I'm feeling, like it needs it. But mostly just 1 layer, and my sentiment I really wanted to pop up. So this I went ahead and just placed right down onto that card front. Now for the sentiment, I went ahead and put down first some adhesive. This is thin adhesive all the way around that sentiment panel that I had cut earlier. And you'll notice that this has some birds on it too. So what this will actually end up doing is kind of going right along in with that scene that's in the background there, so it doesn't look like it's a completely separate sentiment. It looks like it's almost been die cut and popped up from the actual card front itself. Now I went ahead and matted that onto the black mat, and then I'll go ahead and place this right over the top of where that other sentiment was, and that's going to finish off the card for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video tutorial. I'm going to leave you with a few pictures of the finished card. And then also down in the description box, I'll go ahead and leave the Inspired by Stamping link so you can go over and sign up for the newsletter if you want to, and go ahead and grab this freebie while you're at it. So you're going to see a few different links you can click on. The top will take you to a video that you might enjoy watching next. The bottom right will subscribe you to my channel, and the bottom left will take you to my blog where you can find out more about this card. Thank you guys so much for watching today, and happy crafting!